In the headlines, Kaduna residents lament acute water shortage. 2027 elections plot thickens as Atiku allies El-Rufai, Al-Mustapha engage SDP leaders in talks. Lagos Special Offences Court takes jurisdiction in Emefiele case. On the foreign scene, protests erupt in South Korea as supporters rally for impeached president ahead of arrest. Hello there and welcome to the news update on Trust TV. At this hour, I am Aisha Salihu. The news in detail. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed the killing of 6 soldiers during a raid by the Islamic State and Boko Haram group on its military base in Borno State. According to a report, 2 military officers said the fighters from Islamic State West Africa province reportedly launched a pre-dawn attack in trucks and on motorcycles on Sunday on the base in Sabongari in Borno State's Damboa district. The insurgents reportedly set fire to the base along with army vehicles, leading to the death of 6 soldiers after a fierce gun battle. Fighter jets were reportedly deployed from the regional capital, Maiduguri, and struck the attackers as they retreated. In an update statement on Wednesday, the DHQ said although on the whole 34 terrorists were killed and 23 AK-47 weapons recovered, 6 of its personnel were killed in action. The Defense Headquarters also said its troops recovered over 200 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition. Now, operatives of the Nigeria police force have arrested a suspected cop killer and dismantled a child trafficking syndicate in Jos, the Plateau state capital. The force public relations officer, ACP Olumiyiwa Adejobi, in a statement on Monday, said the force intelligence department's intelligence response team arrested a 35-year-old man, Ogaga Dixon, for allegedly killing CSP Hassan Jega, the divisional police officer of the Agbaraho division in Delta State. Adejobi said Ogaga was apprehended on 1st November 2024, weeks after CSP Jega was killed during a gun battle between his team and the assailants on 14th October 2024. He added that operatives had previously neutralized 4 members of the gang during a raid on their hideout. Adejobi stated that upon Ogaga's arrest, the police recovered 1 AK-47 rifle, 1 English pistol, 1 locally made pistol, ammunition of various calibers, and 6 exotic cars. In another operation, Adejobi said operatives successfully dismantled a child trafficking syndicate allegedly led by one Pastor Dayo Bernard of End Time Army Ministry, Bukuru, Plateau State. During the operation, 5 children aged between 2 and 4 who had been abducted from various homes in Jos, Plateau State, were rescued.
The prime suspect, Pastor Dayo Bernard, further confessed that he had been previously arrested by operatives of the police earlier last year for trying to sell a child for the sum of 350,000 naira. The idea of using an NGO/orphanage as a front came after the first attempt failed. Have you sold out of children? Why are you not selling out people's children? Why? You are sorry. What do you do?
I'm talented with the senior sister.
Your senior sister was looking for a child.
Yes.
In politics, some prominent politicians in the country, including a former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, and former presidential candidate Major Hamza Al-Mustapha on Tuesday, met with the leadership of the Social Democratic Party in Abuja to strategize ahead of the 2027 general elections. The meeting, Daily Trust gathered, was aimed at forging a united front to dislodge the ruling All Progressives Congress-led government in the next general elections. This is coming 2 days after El-Rufai had denied the claim in some quarters that he was planning to dump the ruling APC for an opposition party. The former Kaduna governor, in a post on his X handle on Sunday, asked Nigerians to disregard the claim. However, big wigs of the People's Democratic Party, APC, and the SDP were part of yesterday's meeting. Leaders of opposition parties have been consulting recently as part of efforts to either form a merger ahead of the 2027 election for a coalition against President Bola Tinubu. Last weekend, the Shekarau-led League of Northern Democrats hinted at efforts to transform to a political party ahead of 2027. In a post on his Facebook page, a chieftain of the PDP, an ally of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Segun Shoumi, said the meeting was strategic. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party has disassociated itself from the assault on the Sun newspaper correspondent Ndubisi Orji, which reportedly occurred within the premises of the party's national secretariat in Abuja. The PDP National Publicity Secretary, Debo Olagunagba, made this known at a press conference in Abuja on Tuesday. Olagunagba said the perpetrator acted independently and not on the PDP's directive. A staff member of the PDP attacked to the office of the National Secretary, Senator Samuel Anyang, who was recently removed by the court, had on Monday assaulted Orji. The staff member also forcefully prevented other journalists from gaining access to the premises of the party's national headquarters. Olagunagba, who said the party was committed to the rule of law and the democratic tenets of freedom of the press, transparency, and openness, condemned the action. The PDP spokesman, while expressing regret over the incident, stated that the party completely dissociates itself from such act of violence and attack on journalists.
We are a rule of law compliant party. We believe in this finality of the judicial process. We've always respected judicial pronouncement, and we will always abide by court judgment. And that is what I said. And the position of the party has not changed to that. We will, as a party, consistent with our position in the past, as rule of law compliant, we will obey the order of court. We will follow the processes and ensure full compliance with the pronouncement of the Court of Appeal, because that is the position as of today. So that is what it is, and I hope that clarifies if there's any ambiguity at all.
Now, the All Progressives Congress National Publicity Secretary Felix Morka says he and his family have received numerous death threats over his remarks about the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi. Morka stated that the threats were triggered by Obi's accusation that his remarks during a Sunday interview constituted a threat to the LP candidate's life. During another appearance on TV on Wednesday, the APC spokesman disclosed that he had recorded over 400 threats, including approximately 200 explicit death threats, many of which were described in graphic detail. He strongly denied making any comments that could be interpreted as threatening Obi's life, describing the allegations as baseless. Morka's initial remarks during the Sunday's interview sparked outrage after he accused Obi of crossing the line in his criticism of President Bola Tinubu's administration, asserting that the former governor deserved whatever came his way. Former Vice President and presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, called on the APC to apologize to Obi and Nigerians for what he described as inflammatory and disgraceful language. Similarly, the Labour Party issued a 7-day ultimatum to Tinubu, demanding that Morka be reprimanded for his comments. The Lagos State Special Offences Court, sitting in Ikeja, has assumed jurisdiction to hear the allegations of accepting gratification, corrupt demand, and receiving fraudulently obtained property made against the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Justice Rahman Oshodi, in his ruling delivered on Wednesday, held that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission successfully established that the court has territorial jurisdiction to entertain counts 8 to 20 of the 26-count charge made against the former CBN governor based on various facts presented in the evidence attached to the case file. The court, however, agreed with lawyers to Emefiele that counts 1 to 4 of the charge are unconstitutional as they are not based on any existing laws in Nigeria. On April 8, 2024, the EFCC had arraigned Emefiele before the court on the 26-count charge bordering on alleged abuse of office and irregular allocation of $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion naira, respectively. Now, the Independent Court Practices and Other Related Corrupt Practices, and Other Related Offences Commission has filed charges against the former Commissioner of Finance under the administration of Governor Nasir El-Rufai, Bashir Saidu, over alleged financial misappropriation and money laundering. The embattled former commissioner was arrested some weeks ago by the Kaduna State Police Command over allegations of diversion of public funds and was later remanded at the Correctional Center in the Kaduna State capital. An assistant legal officer at ICPC, Oshobeni Akbonisim Misinga, filed the case against the former finance commissioner at the Federal High Court in Kaduna on Tuesday. He was charged alongside a staff member of the Ministry of Finance, Ibrahim Mukhtar. According to the suit, the defendants are charged with a 2-count charge of money laundering. ICPC also accused former commissioner of indirectly taking control of the sum of 155 million naira received in cash from Muazu Abdu, which he reasonably ought to have known formed part of the proceeds of an unlawful activity. Now, the federal government has promised Nigerians that a new national air carrier will begin operations in the country soon. The newly appointed permanent secretary of the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Abubakar Kana, disclosed this during the handing over ceremony organized by the ministry. Kana, who said his goal is to ensure that a national air carrier is established, also promised the revamp of airports across the country. Kana, a former permanent secretary of the Ministry of Defense, said his statement was premised upon President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda for the aviation sector. He added that he would give unreserved support to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, in the actualization of Nigeria's national carrier, as well as the upgrade of airports across Nigeria to international standard. This is the news update on Trust TV, coming up shortly. Abuja residents decry impact of unregulated housing costs. Plenty more stories after the break. We'll be right back. It's nice to have you join us again. Here is a recap of some of our top stories. Kaduna residents lament acute water shortage. 2027 elections plot thickens as Atiku allies El-Rufai, Al-Mustapha engage SDP leaders in talks. And now moving on to other stories. Stakeholders in the facility management industry are calling for urgent intervention to address critical challenges in managing facilities in the Nigerian space. From abandoned buildings to the neglect of government assets, experts stress the need for decisive action to unlock the economic potential of these spaces. Paul Erubami, the past president of the Association of Facilities Management Practitioners, Nigeria, raised concerns about the persistent issue of abandoned buildings in urban areas, attributing this to poor planning, zoning changes and structural defects, all of which have led to wastage of valuable resources. El-Rufai emphasizes the need for government intervention to streamline land registration, enforce robust legislation, and foster public-private partnerships to develop mass housing projects.
So for us as facility managers, we need to start from the standpoint of understanding why the buildings or facilities were abandoned in the first place. And then go into facility condition assessments. We have to do audits. It's a key strategy to ensure that we understand what is wrong with the facility. And then we'll now, from there, come up with plans on how we can revamp, renovate, remodel, recreate these facilities if they are structurally sound and usable. And then once that is done, we now get, work with real estate property developers and property managers to commercialize. Because if you have properties that don't have the viability, the funding source, the revenue to take care of its running, it is going to run down again. So you may end up with that cycle of you fix it and then it runs down because there's no steady stream of revenue or sources of income to ensure that you can do the proper maintenance to keep it up and going.
Now, amid a staggering 28 million housing deficit, tenants in Nigeria's capital city, Abuja, are facing increasing hardships as landlords hike rents, leaving many struggling to meet annual obligations. Over the years, residents in the Federal Capital Territory have called for stronger legal protections against arbitrary rent increases. Now, with economic pressures mounting nationwide, their campaign has gained new urgency. Trustee Ibrahim Ismail brings us the human stories behind the numbers.
Securing a decent place to live in Abuja, Nigeria's seat of power, is one of the toughest challenges for residents. But for many, keeping a roof over their heads has become an even greater struggle as fluctuating rent terms drive tenants to the brink. Take 38-year-old Solomon Patrick, an artist who now resides in Kadokuchi. Before moving to this community, he had an exhausting battle with his previous landlord over Sudan rent hikes that he could no longer afford.
But along the line, they now connived because the house was very tattered. I'm the one that fixed it to the normal house. Then along the line, the landlord now connived, started telling me that he needs the house. He wants to make use of the house. Not knowing that he wants to give it out to another person. And I asked him, is he going to increase house rent? He said, no, they want to make use of the house. I said, oh, there's nothing I can do. And I found out that he put another person inside the house after I fixed it. So I was frustrated, a little bit frustrated.
Like how much did he rent it out?
Almost 300,000.
While tenants like Solomon share tales of frustration and financial strain, some landlords argue there are procedures in place before adjusting rents.
And at the same time, I, as a landlord, I always make an increment because I have a family that do care. And I'm a farmer. Quite okay. Farming in Abuja is not just easy because there's not enough land that where we normally harvest our farm products. So it's through the tenants and of my property, the houses of my property, it's through there I do earn and pay my school fees, the school fees of my children, and other things like food, hospital, NEPA bill, water bill, and etc.
In Kadokuchi, community leaders have taken on the role of mediators, stepping in to resolve disputes and ensure fair negotiations between landlords and tenants.
As a landlord, before you increase a house to the tenant, you have to inform them. so time to so time, I'm going to increase my house rent for so month to so month. We will enter an agreement and agree for a particular amount. Yes, I'll be paying this before the payment commences. And after that, if a tenant have a problem with the landlord, our door is open. We do tell a tenant to come to the palace and tell chief that I have a problem with my landlord. Let's sort it amicable, not going to police or courts.
As conversations about rent control and tenant rights intensify, legal practitioners are joining the call for reform, advocating for laws that balance fairness and justice.
No, basically, like even the Recovery of Premises Act that's applicable in Abuja right now just is silent about the protection of, about rent review. So much of the provision of the Recovery of Premises Act applicable in Abuja only talks about recovery of the premises, notices, period of notices, and rest. But nothing that has to do with rent review is provided there. And that means that each tenant is left to the provision of the agreement they entered with the landlord. So basically it's like a laissez-faire, a free market, whereby it is expected that what you agree with your landlord is what is going to be applied when it involves any dispute on that particular agreement. So it's expected that the lawmakers, most especially in Abuja, or the business-prone environments, should look at this kind of, should look at this kind of situations, provide laws, provide those protections to tenants as well as landlords.
With Abuja's population exceeding 4 million, the city continues to battle a housing crisis that leaves many grappling with inflated rents amidst the country's worsening economic conditions. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Business. The Naira on Tuesday closed flat across foreign exchange markets. The market has remained calm since the introduction of the electronic FX trading platform in early December 2024 by the Central Bank of Nigeria. After trading on Tuesday, the Naira depreciated marginally by 0.1 or 2 Naira as the dollar was quoted at 1,538 Naira compared to 1,536 Naira quoted on Monday at the Nigerian foreign exchange market. Data from the CBN indicated. Authorized dealers quoted the dollar as high as 1,543 Naira on Tuesday, lower than 1,537 Naira, 0.50 kobo on Monday. The market recorded a lower bid rate of 1,531 Naira on Tuesday from 1,530 Naira on Monday. The local currency closed steady at rates between 1,660 Naira and 1,665 Naira in the parallel market, also known as the black market. On the international scene, hundreds of supporters of South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol rallied outside his home on Wednesday in a bid to protect him as investigators prepared a fresh arrest attempt. Yoon has refused questioning and resisted arrest after his bungled December 3 martial law decree plunged South Korea into its worst political crisis in decades. Investigators secured a new arrest warrant Tuesday after an initial 7-day order expired. Several hundred members of his base rushed to the conservative leader's house in central Seoul in response, braving sub-zero temperatures. Some supporters left flowers outside and ribbons with the Trump-style slogan, "Make Korea Great Again," while others waved American flags at the gates of the compound from where the suspended leader has resisted arrest. Yoon's legal team said on Wednesday he remains inside his residential compound after investigators cast doubt on his whereabouts a day earlier. Now, the Biden administration has declared that Sudan's Rapid Support Forces and its proxies are committing genocide in the ongoing civil war with Sudan's military, which has killed tens of thousands and caused a severe humanitarian crisis. Secretary of State Antony Blinken accused the RSF of systematic attacks against civilians, including ethnic-based killings, sexual violence, and obstructing access to life-saving aid. Sanctions have been imposed on RSF leader Mohammed Hamdan Daglo Musa and 7 RSF-owned companies in the UAE, including a gold smuggling firm. The UAE has denied arming the RSF despite evidence suggesting otherwise. The conflict, which began in April 2023, has displaced millions and led to famine in parts of Sudan. The U.S. aims to hold perpetrators accountable and push for meaningful ceasefire negotiations. In sports, Nigeria have named Eric Chell as their new head coach and tasked him with reviving the West African nation's hope of qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. The 47-year-old's most recent international job was in charge of Mali for 2 years, and he took them to the quarterfinals of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, where they lost during extra time to host Ivory Coast. The former centre-back was born in Abuja, but won 5 caps for Mali. He spent his club career in France, most notably with Lens. That's about it on the news update at this moment. Remember, you can always follow us across all of our social media platforms and also join our YouTube live stream for more news, programs and documentary. I am Aisha Salihu. Thank you for watching.